Good morning. Please come to Ind AS 37. This Ind AS 37 is called Provisions, Contingent Liabilities and Contingent Assets. So tell me quickly, do we have a similar standard in accounting standards? What is the number of accounting standard dealing with provisions, contingent liabilities and contingent assets? Don't remember the number? I'll give you hint, somewhere between 20 to 30. 22. 22 is dealing with that income tax chapter, deferred tax. 29. The standard which deals with provision, contingent liabilities and contingent asset in accounting standard is AS 29, and in Ind AS it is Ind AS 37. It is Ind AS 37. A very important standard, not only for the exam but also for practical scenarios, because companies are required to make provisions for the liabilities which are in existence on the reporting date. Companies are required to make provisions for liabilities which are in existence on the reporting date. If they don't make the provisions, which means their liabilities are understated, their profit is overstated, and it will give rise to lot of risk to the investors in future. Once you have to pay the liabilities, it will hit the P&L account, it will reduce your net worth, it will result into cash outflows for which the investor had not done the assessment. Is it right? So therefore this standard would require you to provide for all such known liabilities, even if the amount is uncertain, even if the timing of the payment is uncertain, but you know there is a liability. There is a liability which I have to pay. In technical term, there is a present obligation which I have to pay, which will result into outflow of cash or other asset or other resources. But I don't know the exact amount or I don't know the exact timing. Still the standard requires you to provide for it, make provision for it. When you make provision for it, usually what the journal entry would be, P&L account debit to provision for liability. This is the final effect. Provision will be credited, so your balance sheet will show more liability now. P&L account will be debited, so profit will reduce. If profit will reduce, your equity will reduce, net worth will reduce. So that will give a better understanding of the performance of the enterprise, better understanding of the risk of the enterprise. If you hide the provision, if you don't make the provision, you will say, I will record it when I will pay for it. This will overstate your profit, understate your liability, and that can be dangerous. Like company, suppose a court case is going on. Somebody has filed a case against the company and is asking for a damage of 10 crore rupees. He says, you have copied our trademark, you have copied our patent, and now he has filed a case against you. You also know, based on the developments of the case, that you are likely to lose the case. There is a high chance that you are going to lose the case. But you are not disclosing it, you are not providing for it. Tomorrow if you lose the case, next year 10 crore rupees will have to be paid, for which no provision was made. Investor will be at a shock. Next year there will be heavy loss, share market will crash, your value of your shares can go down. So therefore the standard will require now that you have to make the provision for possible litigation losses. If it is a present obligation. You will say, I don't know exact amount. Don't worry, make an estimate. You don't know when you will pay it. Don't worry, make an estimate and accordingly provide for it. What about contingent liabilities? Contingent liabilities are disclosed. Then student will ask, what is the point in disclosing if I am not accounting for it? The point of disclosing is to make the users aware that there is a potential liability, there is a possible liability which may or may not arise. Knowingly, now you take your decision. Knowing this, you take your decision. And then the standard also tells you about contingent asset. That do not recognize contingent asset. It is a potential asset. It's a possible asset. So don't be too happy just because you are going to win the case. First win the case. Then record the amount receivable. Is it right? So the standard deals with provisions, contingent liabilities and contingent asset. So as a finance manager of your company, you will have to determine which liabilities to be provided for and reflected in the financial statement. So at the end of the year, when we are finalizing our books, this challenge comes. Which all liabilities needs to be presented and shown in the balance sheet. At the end of the year, we have to also identify which are the contingent liabilities which needs to be disclosed in the notes. If you don't have a proper standard on provisions and contingent liabilities, company can manipulate the financial result. Company will not make provision for certain expenses or losses, and this year the profit will be overstated. This year financial position will be presented much better than what it is, because company may be about to get listed in the next year, so they may not want to put more and more provision in the balance sheet, because it will affect their valuation, it will affect their chances of getting subscription for the share, it will affect their chances of raising more funds. Sometimes the manager's commission is based on the profit of the company, so he would try to inflate the profit by not making the provisions. So this standard says no, nothing doing. You have to make provision when it is required. You have to disclose contingent liability when it is required. So with that objective, the standard was introduced. So objective of the standard is to ensure that appropriate recognition criteria and measurement bases are applied. So the standard will deal with recognition. When should provision be recognized? When should provision be recognized? So we will discuss this criteria. Many questions are based on recognition of provision. When should provision be recognized? And many questions will deal with measurement. At what amount? At what amount? Because it is based on estimation. My employee will retire after 30 years. I have to pay him gratuity. It's an estimation. But of course, gratuity is not covered by this standard because we have a separate standard for that. But the logic is same. You have to estimate the amount of provision. So this standard will give you a detailed guideline as to how to measure the amount of provision. Recognition and measurement basis applied to provision. Even though we don't recognize contingent liability in the books, but at least we measure the contingent liability. So measurement is applicable here. Yes or no? Measurement. That at what amount contingent liability should be shown. Similarly, we may not recognize contingent asset in the balance sheet, but at what amount it should be shown is covered by the standard, and the standard has lot of disclosure requirement. The standard has lot of disclosure requirement, which we will see when we read this chapter, that sufficient information is disclosed in the notes to enable users to understand the nature, timing, amount, of provision, contingent liability and contingent asset. Give enough disclosures so that the users can understand what is this provision for. Okay, when will this be paid? What may be the amount that company may be required to pay, because this can affect the company's even going concern also. Say for example, a company like Vodafone, tax authorities have asked them to pay 11,000 crore rupees only, rupees 11,000 crores only, and now they have to also pay interest, they have to pay penalty, fine, whatever you call it. Now if you pay, in case if you lose the case, and if you pay 11,000 crore rupees, from where will you pay? You have to sell all your assets to pay the tax liability of the government. Possible? So if you know that this is the company where this amount is payable, would you invest in this company? Again, yes or no depends on your ability to take the risk, but then this is the situation I am presenting before you. Investors can take a more informed decision. Most of you said no, but of course this is your choice. There can be yes, but I have given you disclosure that this is a company on which you have a demand of 11,000 crore rupees. Many telecom companies have lot of demand from the government, because there are regulations which they have to comply, under which they have to make certain payments. And that is the reason why these companies like Idea are into deep trouble, Airtel, deep trouble, because lot of demand from the government. Okay, and the Idea had to merge with Vodafone, Vodafone Idea, VI, Ting Tong, okay, so that they can at least try to survive. So the objective of the standard is to give you accounting treatment of provision, disclosures relating to provision, then disclosure of contingent liability, contingent asset, and this standard also deal with what we will call provision for restructuring cost. Provision for restructuring. So basically a special issue we will cover under provision, that is provision for restructuring. So nothing great about it except that there will be some additional points to be covered under provision for restructuring. Company wants to restructure their existing business. So what are the provisions required? When to make provision, how much provision to make, that I am going to cover in restructuring. Scope of this standard. Now where the standard is applicable and where it is not applicable. The standard shall be applied by all the entities in accounting for provision, contingent liability and contingent assets. So all entities which are under Ind AS. And if there is a provision, contingent liability or contingent asset, welcome to Ind AS 37, except there are exceptions. And we are going to take questions on some of these exceptions also. Remember, this first exception you mark important, because you have questions in the exam on this exception. Those resulting from executory contract, except where the contract is onerous. Exception, under exception, there is an exception. This standard is not applicable to executory contracts. But if executory contract is onerous, it is applicable. Not applicable to onerous contract. But if executory contract is onerous, it is applicable. So you can say provision is applicable to executory onerous contract. Provision is not applicable to executory non-onerous contract. Now then your question will be, in last 5 minutes only, You've started bombarding with such complicated terminologies. Executory contract, onerous contract. So first is, what is executory contract? Executory means not yet executed, to be executed. Simple example, if you don't want to read so much, A and B are two parties. A places a purchase order. Do you know what is purchase order? That is an agreement to buy goods from B. A says, you please deliver 100 units to me, and B says, once I deliver 100 units to you, you make the payment. Payment is 5,000 rupees. But this is only right now an agreement. A will pay 5,000 rupees to B when B will deliver 100 units to A. Okay. Neither A has made the payment nor B has delivered the goods. So what is the status of the contract? To be executed. To be executed. It is yet to be executed. Then it is called executory contract. And in business, executory contracts are too many. Every day I receive order. Okay, customer says, nowadays on our website, cash on delivery order. That is an executory contract. You have only placed an order. Once I deliver the goods to your doorstep, you make the payment, then it is executed. Is it right? So executory contract means where neither party has performed any of its obligation. Neither party has performed any of its obligation. What is obligation of A? To pay 5,000 rupees. Obligation of B to deliver 100 units. None of them have done anything. Or both parties have partially performed their obligation to an equal extent. So I will now take the same example. A has placed an order for 100 units. B has delivered 50 units. A has paid 2,500 rupees. So I can divide this contract into two parts now, 50-50. This 50 executed. It's already executed. This 50 will become executory. So no provision required for this 50 units. Is it right? But the standard does not apply to executory contract unless they are onerous. Now what is onerous? I will explain briefly, then we will take question later. Onerous means economic benefit is less than cost. Economic cost is more, economic benefit is less. So you will say, how it is possible? A has entered into a contract to buy 100 units at rupees 5,000. It's a contract. See, the word contract means agreement enforceable by law. And he said, I will purchase after 1 month. Price has fallen. Same goods now can be purchased from the market at 4,000 rupees. Is it an executory contract now? Yes. Economic benefit is you will get 100 units whose value now is 4,000 in the market. And what is the cost of honoring this contract? You have to pay 5,000 rupees. Because it's a contract, you have to pay 5,000. You will get goods worth 4,000 now. So it has become an onerous contract, burdensome. Onerous means burdensome. Burdensome. That is when the benefit is less than cost. Now reverse the example from B's point of view. B has promised to sell to 100 units at rupees 5,000. How it can become onerous for B? The cost of production has gone to 6,000 rupees. B has taken an order to deliver 100 units at 5,000. But after receiving the order, the price of input has gone up. Now the cost of manufacturing is 6,000 rupees. So it becomes an onerous contract for B in this example. And therefore B will have to make a provision. B will have to make a provision for this contract, provision for loss of 1,000 rupees in this example. Is it right? So normally we don't make provision for executory contract because the two parties have not performed any of the obligation. But if the contract is executory and onerous, provision will be required. Now some easy discussion for some seconds, easy discussion. Standard is not applicable to financial instrument including guarantees which are covered under the scope of Ind AS 109. Then next is those which are covered by other standards. So the standard says when another standard deals with specific type of provision, contingent liability or contingent asset, an entity applies that standard instead of this standard. Now there are some specific standard dealing with certain specific liabilities, like for example, there is an Ind AS 12. So income tax liability is also a liability. It is also a provision because it requires estimation. Making provision for income tax requires estimation. Why? Because your final tax liability will be known only after the assessment of your tax return. Till that time I don't know that this is my final amount of liability. You may assume certain items are deductible, exempt, but the government may not believe in what you are saying, so they may add something. Again you will file an appeal. So your final liability is known only after assessment and all your appeals are exhausted. Is it right? So which standard deals with that provision? 12. Then leases, 116. But in case of leases, there is a note. However, the standard applies to any lease that becomes onerous before the commencement date of the lease. Now, in case of lease also, we have to make a provision for lease liability. Okay, that provision for lease liability is covered by 116. But before the commencement of the lease, if a lease becomes onerous, this standard will apply. What is the meaning of this? Suppose you have entered into a lease contract that I will take this classroom on rent, and then there is a lockdown, but you have to pay the rent. What is the benefit? Zero, because there is a lockdown. You can't use it for any reason, but you have to pay the rent. I said now you have entered into an agreement, I can't help it. Then this standard will become applicable for a lease contract which becomes onerous. More about lease we will discuss in 116. Then this standard also applies to short-term leases. Short-term leases, this standard is applicable. What is short-term lease? Lease for less than 12 months. You come to me and say, sir, I want this classroom on rent for 3 months. That is a short-term lease. Then this standard will become applicable. And leases for which the underlying asset is of low value. This standard is also applicable for leases with low value item. You say, sir, please give me your 5 tables on lease. I have a meeting in my office, so I need 5 of your chairs for leasing purpose. I will return. That is a small value item. This standard is applicable. Okay. In accordance with Ind AS that have become onerous. So if the lease becomes onerous at inception, standard is applicable. If short-term leases become onerous, standard is applicable. If leases of low value item becomes onerous, standard is applicable. Then this standard is not applicable to employee benefit. Remember, we have a very detailed standard on employee benefit, like provision for gratuity. Companies have to make provision for gratuity, provision for pension, provision for post-retirement medical facility, post-retirement insurance benefit. This requires lot of estimation. So therefore, there is a special standard for that. Don't come to me. Ind AS 37 says, if it is a provision relating to employee benefit, go to Ind AS 19. If it is related to insurance contract and other contracts, go to Ind AS 104. Then if it is a contingent consideration of an acquirer in a business combination, then go to Ind AS 103. And if it is revenue from contract with customer, go to Ind AS 115, revenue from contract with customer. However, as Ind AS 115 contains no specific requirement to address contract with customer that are or that have become onerous, this standard will apply. So if the contract with the customer have become onerous, again Ind AS 37 will apply. This standard applies to provision for restructuring also. So if a company want to restructure its operation, is it right? So that may include making provisions. This standard will apply. The standard will also apply for provision relating to discontinued operation. Can you tell me which standard deals with discontinued operation? Ind AS 105. We'll take it after some days. When a restructuring meets the definition of a discontinued operation, additional disclosures may be required. So if restructuring also fulfills the definition of discontinuing operation, then additional disclosures are required as per 105. So then 105 will give you more disclosures if a restructuring is also a discontinued operation. Now I am going to test you, okay? Tell me, is provision for depreciation covered by this standard? Is provision for impairment loss? Is provision for doubtful debt covered by this standard? Then why we are saying provision? We are used to wrongly calling it as provision for depreciation, because this is what they teach us in your 11th, 12th foundation up to intermediate. Wrong use of words. They say provision for depreciation. The correct figure will be accumulated depreciation or depreciation allowance. So this standard is giving you a warning. There are some situations where we use the word provision for adjustment to the carrying amount of asset. We use the term provision as an adjustment to the carrying amount of asset, but that is not the provision as per this standard. In this standard, provision means liability whose amount and time are uncertain. A liability of uncertain time and amount is provision. Is depreciation a liability? Is depreciation a liability? Do I have an obligation to pay? Is impairment of an asset a liability? Is provision for doubtful debt a liability? No, it is reduction in the value of my asset. It is reduction in value of my debtor. That is not liability. So henceforth, in this remaining syllabus, we will not call these items as provision for depreciation. Rather, I will say allowance for depreciation, allowance for doubtful debt, allowance for bad debt, okay, allowance for impairment, loss. These are the correct way of presenting. Otherwise, somebody might get confused that this is also a liability, but this is not a liability. This is an adjustment to the carrying amount of the asset. So, when you will become teacher, don't say provision for doubtful debt. Right from 11th standard, you tell them it is allowance for bad debt. The provision which are adjustment to the carrying amount of the asset are not addressed in Ind AS 37, since other Ind AS specifies their treatment. Like this is covered by Ind AS 16. This is covered by Ind AS, neighborhood Ind AS 36. This is covered by Ind AS 109, financial instrument. Debtor is a financial asset. Okay. So the allowance for bad debt will be covered by Ind AS 109. Ind AS 37, underline those who have the hard copy of book, only deal with provision for liabilities. Only deal with provision for liabilities. Okay. And you may not know the other party for which the provision is made. Sir, what do you mean by this line? You may not know the other party for which provision is made. You may not know the identity of the other party. Is it right? Like a company has launched corona vaccine. Company has launched corona vaccine. They gave vaccine injection to 10 crore people. Now, there is a serious side effect which started coming up. Okay, side effect, whatever that may be. And thousands of people are getting affected now. So some lawyer, he did, he filed a case against the company on behalf of these thousands and lakhs of people, so that they can get the compensation. Is it right? So does the company know to whom it has to pay exactly? Company does not know the identity of that person to whom it has to pay. But the court case is going on. Court case is serious. Company might lose. And once it loses, it will have to make a payment to those thousands and lakhs of people. That is called, sometimes you don't need the identity of the party to whom you have to make the payment. Generally it will be the case, but it may not be the case every time. You may have to make provision even though you don't know who is the other party. That is why these medicine companies are very careful when they launch a vaccine, because they may enter into a huge liability if something goes wrong. Ind AS 10 requires changes to provision when any event occurs after the reporting date. This also we have covered in Ind AS 10. Suppose on balance sheet date, we have made a provision for litigation loss, 1 lakh rupees. 31st July is the approval date. Court decision was announced on 31st May. So this will be an event after the reporting date, and the court says you will have to make payment. Court says you have to pay 1.5 lakh. How much provision I have already made? 1 lakh. Is it giving more information about a condition existing on the reporting date? Yes. So therefore, I have already made a provision of 1 lakh. I will now make it 1.5 lakh. So additional 50,000 provision I will create. That is the meaning of this line. Event after the balance sheet date may give you more information about a condition, and that may require you to restate the amount of provision in the balance sheet. Next question is, what is provision? Provisions are liabilities. Then your question will be, what is liability? We will discuss below. Provisions are liabilities of uncertain timing or amount or both. Either the amount is uncertain or the timing is uncertain or both are uncertain. Is it right? Like for example, a good example will be provision for gratuity. But that is not covered by the standard. But it's a good example for understanding what is provision. When will the employee retire? What is the amount I will pay is uncertain. But I have to create a provision right now when he is rendering the service. Or another good example is provision for warranty, which is covered by this standard. Provision for warranty. We will discuss one by one. Provision for warranty. What is provision for warranty? Company sells goods like this AC which we have purchased for classroom. It came with a 5-year warranty. Okay. If there is any manufacturing defect, the company will replace, repair, rectify, whatever is possible they will do. But then they have sold the goods in this year, 2021-22. Any time the customer may come. He can come in next 6 months also, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. And we really don't know what kind of defect that he will bring in. So to rectify or replace, we don't know exactly how much amount I have to incur. Am I right? So amount is also uncertain. When he will come is also uncertain. But liability is certain. Liability is certain. Based on company's experience, a company knows that out of 100 ACs that we sell in a month, 2-3 ACs may have some kind of manufacturing defect or some problem. Yes or no? So based on their best estimate of the amount they will have to incur, they will have to create provision. Is it right? Then the question is, what is liability? What is a liability? Because provision must be a liability. In this standard, only liabilities are provision. So liability is a present obligation. Now your question will be, what is present obligation? We'll discuss. So liability is the present obligation of the enterprise. So underline some keywords. Present obligation arising from past event. We do not create provision for future event. Next year I am going to go to Goa. Once things will become, everything becomes good, I'll go to Goa. So I'll make a provision for traveling expense now only. Can I do that? I'll write in my books, traveling expense account debit to provision for traveling expense 5 lakh rupees. Being provision made for a future Goa trip. Wrong. But if I have gone to Goa, then I will have to pass an entry for the liability. Past event. We'll discuss about this also. Like one example of warranty we discussed just now. We make provision for warranty because we have sold the goods. We discuss litigation expense. We will make a provision for litigation expense because the court case has been initiated by the other party. Okay. And next is the settlement of which is expected to result in an outflow from the enterprise of resources embodying economic benefit. That means when you are going to settle this obligation, you will have to transfer, you will have to transfer some economic resource of your entity to the other party. That economic resource can be cash, which is usually the case. It can be any asset, it can be investment, okay, or any other economic resource. Economic resource means something which generates economic benefit for you. So to settle that liability, if you have to transfer some economic resource, then this is condition number 3. So when is an obligation liability? It should be present obligation arising out of past event. Settlement of that obligation is expected to result in outflow of resources having economic benefits for the enterprise. If these conditions are not satisfied, then it is not a liability. If it is not a liability, it is not a provision. So now your question is, what is present obligation? Present obligation means an obligation is a present obligation if based on the evidence available, its existence at the balance sheet date is considered probable, that is more likely than not. Have you understood anything? Based on evidence available, based on whatever evidence you have, the evidence can be documentary evidence, legal evidence, court evidence, external evidence, you believe that the probability that the liability exists is more likely than not. More likely than not means probability is greater than 50%. More likely than not means the chance of event happening is more than the chance of not happening. The chance of event happening is more than the chance of event not happening. In mathematical terms, in simple terms, I will simply say the chance that the obligation exists on the balance sheet date is more than 50%. So more than 50% means 50 to 100%. 50 to 100%. Now this may require some judgment because you are talking about probability. You are talking about probability. So you will consult your experts, your lawyer if it is a legal case, your actuary if it is a retirement benefit liability, okay, your engineers if it is a warranty, and ask them what is your view about this liability crystallizing. He says, I think this liability may crystallize as more than 50% probability. Welcome to the world of provisions. Is it right? So some judgment may be required. I don't say that judgment will not be required. Judgment can be required. Like especially like court cases. You really don't know whether you are going to win or lose. Then apply your judgment whose probability is more. If the probability of winning is more than 50%, no need to make provision. If the probability of losing is more than 50%, then make provision. Is it right? So now we'll see the next definition, that is called possible obligation. So if it is not a present obligation, then it is a possible obligation. Possible obligation is a obligation if based on evidence available, its existence at the balance sheet date is considered not probable. Because probable means more likely than not. So mathematically the probability is less than 50%. You can just put it there, probability less than 50%. So in a scale of 0 to 100, this is 50. If your probability in this region, the probability is in the region of 0 to 50, then it is a possible obligation. In a probability meter, this is probability meter, okay? My theory, probability meter theory. If it is on this area, then we will say present obligation. So you will take this probability meter, just like thermometer, more than 98 Celsius, you say person is not well, yes or no? Oxygen saturation meter, that small thing which they put in your finger, below some number you detect something, okay? So this is my probability meter. On the left side of 50, possible. On the right side of that 50, present obligation. So apply this probability meter, okay? Of course in the market it is not available, but it is based on your judgment. Next is obligating event. An event that creates an obligation that results in an enterprise having no alternative to settling that obligation. Provision is required if it is arising out of a past obligating event. Provision is required if it is arising out of a past obligating event. And what is the meaning of past obligating event? Enterprise have no alternative but to settle that obligation. You have sold goods with a warranty clause. If any manufacturing defect occurs, come to me in next 5 years, I will repair, rectify, replace. That is your obligating event. You sold the goods to the customer. If you don't like it, you can return it and get the refund in next 30 days. 30 days return policy. That is an obligating event. Okay. You have promised bonus to the employee. That is an obligating event. So now if I compile the whole thing together, when will you recognize provision? Understand. Suppose I ask you to make a checklist of when to recognize provision based on our current discussion, that first of all it should be a present obligation arising out of past event. Settlement will result into outflow of economic resources. It is an uncertain timing and amount. It has uncertain timing and amount. And after some time we will add one more feature. You should be able to make a reliable estimate, because everything is possible but you can't measure it reliably. You can't measure it reliably. In spite of all your efforts, you can't get a reliable figure. Then till you get that reliable figure, you will not recognize it as a provision. So this is a checklist of whether this item is a provision, okay, and it requires recognition. Now we will discuss the difference between provision and trade payable. Are trade payable also provision? Is your creditor a provision? So let us see the difference. In case of provision, there is a uncertainty about the timing and amount of the future expenditure required in settlement. We are not sure about the timing. 5-year warranty on air conditioner. Company does not know when will the customer come and how much amount I have to incur to rectify that. Is it right? Court case is going on. In India, if the court case is going on, there are two uncertainties. One, when will the court decide? Sometimes generations change. Father had started the case, son is still fighting. Is it right? And we really don't know how much amount either I will pay or I will recover out of this court case. So that is why provisions are made. It requires estimation of timing and amount of expenditure. But what about trade payable? You purchase this book from me, sir, give me this financial reporting book. I said, okay, I'll give it to you. You said, sir, please, I'll pay you after 3 months. My boss is not paying me stipend. Is it right? So in your book, I will become trade payable. Is there any uncertainty about the amount? 3,000 rupees the price of this FR book. 3 months is the term at which you will pay me. So therefore, there is almost negligible uncertainty about time and amount. Then it is trade payable. So trade payables are also liability. Provision is also liability. Then what is the difference about the uncertainty element? So liability to pay for goods or service is trade payable. Like your boss has to pay you stipend 3,000 rupees per month at the expiry of 7 days from the end of the month. Yes or no? In your office, they normally pay you after 5 days or 7 days? After how many days? First or second only? Okay, first or second. After 2 days from the end of the month. So you know the amount. You are going to get 3,000 only. Not 8,000 or 25,000. And you are going to get after 2 days from the end of. So you are a trade payable in the books of your boss. Okay. That has been received or supplied and have been invoiced or formally agreed with the supplier. So on the similar line, tell me, rent payable, is it trade payable or is it provision? Rent payable to landlord. Trade payable. Why? You have to pay rent of 25,000 rupees per month at the end of the month. Last day of the month you have to pay, or maybe at the beginning of the next month you have to pay. So that's a trade payable. It's a amount payable for a service rendered by somebody. Stipend payable, trade payable. Okay, transporter's bill payable. Is it trade payable or provision? Transporter's bill. Trade payable, because you know, a transporter gives you a rate quotation. Okay, you agree, there is an agreement with the transporter that he will charge me 1,000 rupees per 100 kilometer. Don't I know how many kilometers have been travelled? Can I not do the calculation? And then there is an agreement which says the bill will be settled after 1 month. Bills will be settled after 1 month. So the timing is also certain. Of course, you may not pay, that is a different issue. But the timing is certain. Amount can be calculated comfortably, accurately. Will it be too much of deviation from what you calculated and what the transporter will give you a bill? No. Many times I don't receive the bill from my transporter. But I know that during this month I have dispatched 200 books to the student. I have delivered at these locations. I have an agreement with my courier company that if I dispatch within 500 kilometer, he will charge me 50 rupees. If I dispatch 500 to 750 kilometer, he will charge me 100 rupees. If I dispatch after this, he will charge me 200 rupees, like this. So don't I know how much amount I have to pay? Yes, I know. So it is not provision, because the amount and timing are certain. Then what about accruals? So accruals fall somewhere between these provisions and trade payable. Is it right? Liability to pay for goods or service that have been received or supplied but have not been paid, like invoiced or formally agreed with the supplier, including amount due to employees, for example, amount related to accrued vacation pay. So this is also a liability, but it may not be formally agreed. It may not be formally agreed, and although it sometimes requires estimation of the timing or accrual, the uncertainty is generally much lower than the provision. So we call it accrual. So employees may take holidays for which we will pay him. But although there may not be a formal agreement with that, it is accrual. Electricity bills, more or less we know how much I have to pay. Is it right? So accrued. At the end of the year we pass an entry, interest accrued, expense accrued, based on our rough estimate. But it doesn't require too much of uncertainty. Provision for gratuity is too much of uncertainty. Provision for warranty is too much of uncertainty. Provision for tax liability requires too much of uncertainty. So this is somewhere between the two. So now I hope you have understood the difference between provision, trade payable and accrual. Many entities put accrual also under the head provisions because some degree of uncertainty may be involved. So now your question answer session or your test will start. Tell me, accruals are often reported as a part of trade and other payable where provisions are reported separately. Although practically I have seen this accrual, some company puts it under trade payable. They think it is more like trade payable. Some companies, they also put it under provisions. The correct approach will be, because the amount of uncertainty is very less, it is more appropriate to put it as trade and other accrual. Okay. Tell me, what will you do? Income, electricity bill payable. Will you put it as provision or accrual or trade payable? Income tax payable, provision, accrual or trade payable? Trade payable, both. Both trade payable. Income tax payable is also trade payable. What service they are rendering to me? Nothing. It is a legal obligation. Amount is fixed. Oh my God, oh my God. One student in the class is saying income tax is fixed. How much fixed? We have calculated. So I will next year calculate ₹1 as my tax liability and give it to the government and said my student has told me it is fixed, whatever you calculate is fixed. They will ask me, okay, please come to the commissioner's office. Bring a big bag also, full of multicolor currencies. Pink will be preferred. Assuming whatever you assume. See, your liability is always uncertain because the government will do the assessment. You are not to decide how much is your liability. You can only propose this is my liability. The ultimate liability will be decided by the department. Okay. So this is always provision. What about this? It is usually not shown as provision because the amount is known. It doesn't require too much of uncertainty. But if you don't receive the bill and you don't know the amount till the end of the year, some companies, they receive the electricity bill of 31st March later only. Do I receive the electricity bill on 31st March? I have consumed electricity in the month of March, but I receive the bill next month. And during Corona times, some of the electricity company have not given the bill only because they have not taken the meter reading. So then I have to estimate. Then I have to make a serious estimate. Then it will become a provision. But practically what happens, the bill gets received around 7th to 15th of the next month. Based on the bill received here, we make a entry here. We create a liability here. Am I right? Event after the balance sheet. So you know the bill amount, take the bill amount, create a electricity bill payable. So it is not a provision generally because the amount is known. But if you have to make estimation, then it is a provision. When should provision be recognized? Good question. when should provision be recognized? So the standard says only and only when the following conditions are satisfied, provision should be recognized. Otherwise, it may be over provisioning also. Over provisioning is good or bad? Under provisioning, good or bad? Both are bad. Because under provisioning means overstatement of your profit, which is of course very bad. Over provisioning is also bad. You are shifting the profit to the next year. What will you do? This year you will make provision, profit is lower. But you want to increase your profit for the next year. Maybe for some reason, like you may be going for listing in the next year or after that year. So you want to show a higher profit. You want to show a profit which is showing a rising trend. Okay. Make provision, reverse it next year. So when you will reverse it, again credit to P&L account. So indirectly it will give an impression your profit is rising. By making provision here, you reduce the profit. By reversing the provision, you increase the profit. So normally what you do as a shareholder or investor, you say, oh, last year PAT was 30 crore. This year PAT is 45 crore. You are not going to go into details of every line item reported in the P&L account and balance sheet. First, very few people get the time, energy to read all the details in the annual report. Even I don't do it when I am teaching this subject. I don't expect it from general person to read the detailing of annual reports. At the most, what I do, I look at the P&L account, last year profit, this year profit, yes, 50% rise, company is good. That is what I immediately conclude and I buy 5 shares of that. Example, That is how normally people will do. But then this is not due to company's performance, this is just an accounting trick. Made a provision of 15 crore in this year and reversed it in the next year. So that is called profit shifting. That is also not good. So my point is that this is a very important chapter. You apply it in your offices, do it carefully, understand it today, and you will find it very useful for your office work. So first point is provision should be recognized if there is a present obligation. Present obligation means the probability is more than 50%. It can be a legal obligation or it can be a constructive obligation. What is the difference? Legal means either due to the force of the law or due to a contract you have entered into, because contract is enforceable by law. I sold a TV set and I gave you 5-year warranty. That is my contractual or legal obligation. But to maintain the good relationship with the customer, I say if you don't like the product, you can return after 30 days. That is not a contractual, but that has become my past practice. That is to maintain good relation. If a customer comes, we return the goods. But that is not mentioned in contract. Then it is constructive. We pay bonus to employee on Diwali every year, 1 month salary. But that is not mentioned in their appointment letter. Appointment letter only says your salary will be so and so amount per month. Bonus was not mentioned there. But still we paid bonus. Last year also we paid. Before that also. Last 15 years we are paying bonus. So what it has become now? Constructive obligation. Constructive obligation because it arises due to business practices. It arises due to business practices. And therefore, once it is due to business practices, the counterparty assumes that he is entitled for such benefits. Is it right? In our office, if a student does not like a product, we will return. give him money. So now the student assumes that in this business or in this office, if I don't like the product, I can return any time and I will get my money. So we have created a valid expectation. Employees know every month will get the Diwali bonus now. So that has become constructive obligation. It should arise due to past event. Very important. If no past event, no provision, matter closed. This is easy to test, past event. Then next is it should result into outflow of resources, embodying economic benefits. Fourth, one more point, to make provision, a reliable estimate should be made. Now since the word estimate is used, it has to be a judgment. It can't be accurate, but it has to be reliable. It has to be reliable. Then in the next few paragraphs we will see how to do this estimation. It can't be a guesswork. You can't put 10 numbers in a box and pick up one number, make provision. Can we do that? Say yes or no. I have to make a provision for warranty. I'll put in a box 10 number, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh, 4 lakh, 5 lakh, 6 lakh, 7 lakh, 8 lakh, 9 lakh, 10 lakh. Then I'll put a black color cloth on my eyes and I'll put one number, 8 lakh. This year provision is 8 lakh. Can I do that? No, that is not reliable estimate. It is an estimate, not reliable. So there are some ways to do it. For example, tax liability, although not a part of this chapter, but for understanding, you consult a tax practitioner. Even though it is a big company, but they either have in-house tax consultant or they take the help of outside tax practitioner before they put this entry in their books of account. Do you know that? Simple example, provision for gratuity. Again, not a part of this chapter, but easy for understanding. What we do? We take the help of an actuary who is an expert in that field. He tells me that this is your liability. Some calculation they will give you. Then provision for warranty. I will ask our engineer and technicians, what is your opinion that what percentage of the product sold will have defects? So they will give me opinion. If it is a legal liability, we take the opinion of some legal consultant. Is it right? So that is how reliable estimates are made. So if you do audit of big entities, then you will get to see how do they make the provisions. That is really interesting part of audit, checking the provisions made by the companies. If these conditions are not met, provision shall not be recognized. So I'll just quickly summarize. There should be present obligation, past event, outflow of resources, and reliable estimate should be made. And the difference between provisions and other liabilities is that it involves uncertain amount and timing. So it involves uncertain amount and time. So it comes under the category provision. Got it? Now, outflow of resources. What do you mean by outflow of resources? Means outflow of some or the other asset like cash. It means entity will pay or incur cost on it. That is called outflow of resources. Either you will make payment or you will incur certain cost to settle that amount. Like in case of warranty, we don't pay to the customer, but we incur cost to rectify. But in case of sales with 30 days return policy, we don't incur the cost, we take the good, we pay cash. In case of legal cases, we may not incur the cost, we have to pay cash to settle that liability. So it can either require some form of payment or some cost to be incurred. What is present obligation? Probability is 50 to 100. So in this, if suppose this is full, more than 50, okay, then this will become a provision. And if it is just this much full, this is provision meter, okay, then it is not a provision. 100% can also be a probability, a provision. Even if the probability is 100%, but the amount is uncertain, timing is uncertain, liability is 100% certain. Liability is 100% certain, but the amount and timing is uncertain. Still we need to create the provision. So provision means present obligation. Present obligation can be legal or constructive. Legal obligation can be contract. Most of the obligation arises because of this contractual obligation. You and your boss also have contractual rights and obligation because you have signed some kind of agreement. With customer we have contractual arrangement because there is a purchase order that he gives it to us. When we take properties or assets on rent, we sign a rental agreement. So that give rise to contractual obligation. It can be due to legislation also. What is legislation? Bonus Act, Gratuity Act. Don't you think this give rise to some kind of obligation? Income Tax Act says companies have to pay income tax. Okay, these are not covered by this standard, they are covered by other. But understanding was required. Now suppose there is a Pollution Act. A company which causes pollution will have to pay penalty. Environment related laws are there. Do you know that environment related laws? And if you do not comply with that, you have to pay fine, penalty, etc. So this is Factory Act is there. Factory Act. These are just example of legislation which requires you to create provisions, or it can be due to other operation of the law. And then constructive obligation, we will discuss it in some minutes. Constructive obligation. First thing, an obligation should be present obligation. Obligation can be due to law or constructive. Now the important thing is create provision only if it is a past event. Past event give rise to obligation. Future event will not give rise to obligation. Future event can be used for impairment testing, etc., but not for making provisions. Future event can be used for valuation purpose, but not for provisions. Is it right? So past event leads to present obligation is called obligating event. For an event to be obligating event, it is necessary that entity has no realistic alternative to settling the obligation created by the event, which means you don't have any choice but to settle. And if you settle, it will result into outflow of economic resources. This is the case only when where the settlement of the obligation can be enforced by the law, or what is or? In case of constructive obligation, where the event, which may be action of the entity, created valid expectation in other parties that the entity will discharge the obligation. So in either of the two cases, past event will arise. That is, it can be enforced by the law. You have sold goods. You have given warranty. So this is a past event. You have to repair, replace, rectify. Somebody has filed a court case against you. past event. Sold goods with return policy, past event. Okay, these are all enforceable by law. Many times it may not be a legal or contractual obligation, but it is arising because of your business practices. As I said, Diwali bonus given by many entities, even though legally or contractually they may not be required to do so. Then refund of money to dissatisfied customer, even though it may not be contractual, that is, it is not mentioned in the contract that goods will be returned and money will be refunded, but because it has become a business practice, is it right? So many shopkeepers, businessmen, they do it because they want to maintain good relationship with the customer. Some companies clean the environment on their own. That means if a company has a factory in some area where there is a lot of population, on their own they do some kind of environment projects so that they maintain good relationship with the people in that area. Am I right? If you just start a factory, keep polluting the environment, make noise pollution, people will go against you. So what you do, to maintain good relationship with the community, you can do some community related work. That becomes your past practice, and then it becomes a constructive obligation, because now the community will believe, the people living around your factory will believe that this company is again going to do the same thing. It is only those obligations arising from past event existing independently of the entity's future action that are recognized as provision. So the institute will try to trap you. They will give you stories about future. We don't create provision for future event. Okay. The company institute will say the company will make a provision for future operating loss. That means you will make a provision for next year loss. Can I do that? No, because there is no past event, there is no obligation. So now you see example of past event. Penalty or cleanup cost for unlawful environmental damage. Some companies, they are causing damage to the environment. Their factories are emitting smokes full of carbon dioxide, whatever, sulfuric oxide. So that is damaging the environment. Okay. There are laws which requires you to pay penalty for that. So what this company will do, if it has caused environment damage, it will result into an outflow of resources, embodying economic benefit in settlement regardless of the future action of the entity. So if you have caused damage to environment, when the law exists that you have to pay penalty or clean up, do it, make a provision. Or one student was talking about decommissioning expenses. What is decommissioning expenses? So you will set up a deep sea oil rig for extraction of oil, gas from under the sea. So you have to set up all this infrastructure, and once your exploration activity is over, what is your obligation? You will dismantle all this. You have to remove all the structure, rig that you have created. You have to make a provision for that, because there is an obligation to remove all this infrastructure or rig, and that in technical terms we will call provision for decommissioning cost. Provision for decommissioning cost. because you have done the installation. So that is a past event. So you have an obligation to remove it also. Similar example can be for mines. People get the right to extract gold, coal, iron ore from the mines, but there is an obligation to level it again, bring it back to its original condition after the mining activity is over. So our standard says, because you have started mining, there is an obligation to restore the environment. So you have to make a provision for decommissioning, because that's a past event. Now next issue is measurement of provision. This again requires some judgment. Our institute has given a lot of detailed guideline as to how to make provision. How to make provision. It is an estimation, but at least it should be as realistic, as reliable as possible. So provisions are measured by management. Who has the responsibility for calculating the amount of provision? Management. Then what you are doing as an auditor? You have to see that it is realistically measured. It is reliably measured. Your objective is to check how they have arrived at those figures, okay? So if its measurement is not possible, in spite of all your effort, it is not possible, can the management take the help of experts? Yes. Like for example, as I said, for estimation of tax liability, retirement benefit liabilities, okay, then legal liabilities, you take lawyers, warranty liabilities, you take engineers, technicians, etc. So you can take their help. If still it can't be measured, then provision cannot be made, since measurability condition is not satisfied. So this is rare, this is very rare, okay. I have done audit of many companies, big companies, listed companies, when I was doing articleship, and after articleship also I worked for some time. It is normally done. So this line exists in your book only. Practically, companies are able to estimate the provision, but theoretically, if it can't be estimated, then provision should not be made. Then you can disclose it as a contingent liability if it meets the requirement of contingent liability, okay. To measure the provision, estimate of probable liability should be made. What is the meaning of estimate of probable liabilities? If entity estimate different liability for different actions, then consider lower liability as possible action of the entity. What do you mean by this? So I am going to ask you a question. You are driving your scooter or bike or car, okay. You are supposed to wear the helmet, but you are not wearing the helmet. The cost of the helmet is 1200 rupees. The fine for not wearing helmet is 500 rupees. What will you prefer? What will you prefer, 500 or 1200? 500. If 500 settles the matter, for example, 500. Similarly, suppose a company is causing damage to the environment. The government says you have to install some equipments like filters, so that you will not damage the environment. So that filter will cost you 5 lakh rupees. But if you don't put the filter, you have to pay penalty, 1 lakh rupees. So what will you do? 1 lakh. In India we do simple calculation. what will cost me less. Not only that, we will also see what is the chance of paying the penalty. Can I settle it even for a lower amount? Don't write that. What is the probability that government will catch hold of me and ask me to pay the penalty, and then accordingly I will make the provision. But if the government says penalty will be 10 lakh, smoke filter will cost me 5 lakh, then I will be happy with 5 lakh rupees. Is it right? So this is the meaning of this line. If entity estimate different liability for different action, then consider lower liability as the possible action of the entity. So if by not following the law my cost is 10 lakh, by following the law my cost is 2 lakh, I will pay 2 lakh. Accordingly we will make the provision. Provision will be made for the lower amount. Have you understood the logic? We always believe we will try to minimize our cost and maximize our profit. That is how a businessman will do the things, and standards are also designed accordingly. What a businessman will do, whatever cost him lower amount. To calculate the liability amount for provision, best estimate should be made. Best estimate, how do you estimate best estimate? So now they have given some guideline for that. Best estimate is the expenditure required to settle the present obligation at the end of the reporting period. Now this is a very general statement, very broad statement. For that we need to do some number crunching. Best estimate means what? Everybody will say best estimate, but how do I actually put that in the figures? In other words, the amount that the entity would rationally pay to settle the obligation at the end of the reporting period, or to transfer it to a third party at that time. Here comes lot of judgment gets involved here. The standard says make a best estimate. What is the most likely amount you are going to pay to settle the obligation? Is it right? Say yes. Are you awake or sleeping? Or should I make a provision for next day's lecture now? Wait a minute. I have to complete up to this point. Okay. Best estimate can be calculated using expected value method. Have you heard this word expected value in your mathematics? If I sell TV and I give a warranty, I believe that out of 5,000 TVs sold, in 500 there will be zero defect. So my cost will be zero. There will be 5,000, sorry, not 5,000, 3,000, where my cost will be 5,000 rupees to rectify. And there is 1,500 with major defect, my cost will be 6,000. Is it right? I have sold total 5,000 TV. I do this estimation. 500 TV will not cause any problem. 3,000 TVs may cause a problem of 5,000 rupees, and 1,500 TVs may cause a problem of 6,000 rupees. So accordingly, I will make a provision. So what is the probability for these events? I will calculate. This event has a probability of 10%. This event has a probability of 60%. This has a probability of 30%. So now I will multiply what is my expected cost. What is my expected cost? 0, 60% of 5,000. 3,000, 30% of 6,000, 1,800. So my expected cost can be 4,800. This is called expected value method. And this companies use when they are going to make provision on a large number of items sold. You can't make provision for individual items now. I have sold to 5,000 customer. Will I individually calculate for each customer, or I will take a general understanding that during last year, suppose I have the statistics, or last 2-3 years of statistics I have, and I will see what is the probability of 0 cost, 5,000 cost, 3,000 cost, and accordingly I will make provision in this year also. So this concept of expected value will be used when there are large number of similar items on which provision has to be made. Same thing can be done by companies selling vaccines also. 30% chance they might suffer 0 loss. 50% chance they may have to pay 20 crore rupees penalty. 20% chance they may have to pay 5 crore penalty. Accordingly, they can apply expected value method and make the provisions. And the other method is called single value event method. Single value event method means most likely outcome method. Most likely outcome method. I will take an example to explain this. So example is pending for second example from my side. When will you use first method? If large population of similar cases exist, like companies selling thousands of TV with warranty, they will apply this method. They can't apply for every customer. And in case of individual item, like you have filed a case against me, so there is only you and me now, then I will apply single value. Means when we have to make a provision for a specific transaction, event, etc., then apply this method, because then I don't have to apply expected value. So I will see this method, but then how to apply this method, the example is pending. So now I am going to tell you how to estimate provision using expected value method. See this example, very important, printed in your book also. An entity sells goods with warranty under which customers are covered for the cost of repairs of any manufacturing defect that become apparent from the first 6 months after purchase. If minor defect, repair cost is 1 million. Major defect, repair cost is 4 million. So there are two possibilities, minor, major, and there can be other possibility, no defect also. Okay. Entity's past experience suggests that for the coming year 100% of the goods will have no defect. No defect means the cost is 0. Yes or no? No defect means no cost for rectification. 75. Cost is 0. Cost will be 0. If I sell you this pen and it does not have any defect, I don't have to incur any further repair and maintenance, repair rectification cost. 20% will have minor defects, means I will incur 1 lakh. 5% will have major defects, means I will incur 4 million. An entity assesses the probability of an outflow of the warranty obligation as a whole. What is the expected value of the cost of repair? So it is simple school level mathematics now. 0 you will incur, 1 you will incur, 4 you will incur. And you have to just multiply by their respective probabilities. Yes or no? And that will become your expected value of the cost of repair. So the answer is, I think the answer is printed, just check. Is the answer printed in your book? What is the answer? 4 lakh. So company will make a provision of 4 lakh rupees. This is called expected value method. When you are selling large quantities, then you can use expected value method. Now we'll continue tomorrow.